Do you know why people say being a pilot is the coolest job in the world? Because they really are super cool. And many women scream for men in this profession. Wherever they go, it seems like there's a spotlight shining on them. And even flight attendants want to get close to them. This captain was only planning to go back to the hotel to rest. But he encountered a romantic encounter. Maybe he's faced with so many pretty ladies that he's almost numb to it. Numb to the point where he isn't even interested in women anymore. He changed clothes and went to a place even more thrilling than flying a plane, where the nightlife was on a different level. He wandered through several alleys to find a corner but was spotted by a masked person. Since then, the captain couldn't fly anymore, because the next day the police found his body but couldn't find his head. And what's even harder to understand is that his head was discovered by an environmental worker. The worker noticed a puddle on the road, and after processing it, he saw a head. The police were baffled by this case. For some reason, this city has a lot of men living with other men. They don't seem to like living with women very much. These two young guys are even more open-minded. They read the news and found out there's a forest for gay gatherings. He watched his partner head in for some fun. Seeing them walk into the forest, Adam realized this place didn't quite suit him. So he waited, but unexpectedly, a masked person appeared. Adam knew something was wrong. He ran and shouted for Sully as he ran. The masked person, unable to catch up with Adam, turned to Sully instead. Adam knew Sully was in danger and went to report it to the police. Adam reported it, but the police were also at a loss. Adam, a bit irritated, turned and walked away. He decided to go to the bar himself to drink his sorrows, actually hoping to find some clue. After all, there are only so many circles where men date men. He concluded that the killer must be a man, and likely he's attracted to men, with male targets as well. In the hotel, Adam actually found a photo of the killer. He asked the bartender, who said he didn't recognize him, but he did know who the person in the photo was. So Adam followed the lead to the photography studio. Sure enough, Theo was there, taking photos. The model's styling looked great, and Theo's poses were also super stylish. Everyone is incredibly charming in their own field, and it took a while for them to finish the shoot. When Theo found out Adam was there to gather information, he was willing to tell Adam everything, but Adam had to take off his shirt and model for him. During the conversation, they had to keep taking photos. That's professionalism. Every minute not spent photographing is a waste of life. When Adam asked about the masked person, Theo openly told him. Theo knew that person. They hadn't met in years. To find the killer, Adam went to the sauna daily, where it was a haven for men only. Apart from a singer performing, it was a place where only men came to have fun. Theo came to see Adam, but since Adam wasn't in the mood, Theo went off with another guy. Another man started talking to Adam. It seemed Adam was quite popular, but Adam still wasn't in the mood, and that guy went off with someone else, too. However, when he entered the bedroom, the person was gone, and the masked man appeared. The masked man again looks like that guy's fate wasn't good either. This masked person is a serial killer, and the police have been meeting every day to catch him. One officer, Patrick, is a complicated one. He was actually married, but he fell in love with someone he shouldn't. His wife could accept him having someone on the side but couldn't accept that his partner was a man. You can see that Patrick actually loves his wife. His boyfriend is Gino, and he and Patrick argue often, mainly because of the masked man's case. One wants to solve the case, while the other wants materials for an exposé. Gino arranged a meetup mainly to see if he could find any leads to follow up on, but as soon as he walked out of the bar, he was already stumbling with his tolerance. There was no way he'd be drunk. It seemed he had offended someone had spiked his drink. What's even stranger is Sam, who runs a film company to easily find models and likes to abuse them, suddenly feeling interested. He wanted to meet with Theo, but Theo ignored him and went to find Adam instead. With so many characters, who really is the masked man? Gino got drunk after just a few drinks and had someone helping him on the street. This wasn't a random passerby but someone familiar who did it on purpose. When he woke up, he was tied in a room, watching TV, hearing sounds nearby. He barely came to, only to be injected by this familiar stranger. He drifted back to sleep, woke up, and was injected again, repeating this cycle for over 10 days. He thought he was going to die there, but in a daze, he was thrown back at the bar, with sheer willpower. He walked to the bar entrance but collapsed from exhaustion. Two people passing by unexpectedly saved him. From then on, he saw these two as his personal angels. The feeling of coming back to life left him with a mix of fear and gratitude. He gained new insight but couldn't understand why the killer spared him. Adam came to find Gino again, still trying to get information about his friend. After talking, they realized they were both after the masked man. Since the victims were all gay men, the police didn't take it seriously, fearing it would cause unnecessary trouble. Gino and Adam thought of a way to get the police's attention by paying out of their own pockets to print flyers. Gino handled the writing and layout, while Adam posted them everywhere. In just one night, it went viral, becoming the latest trending topic. As expected, the police finally took it seriously, and Adam was taken to the station. Since the masked man started targeting gay men, the whole community was on edge. Adam, also investigating the matter, was brought to the station. The police gave him a card, telling him to call if he had any news or was in danger. In their community, they valued love and trust first, a principled group among their circle. Adam was released from the station thanks to a friend who bailed him out. His friend told Adam that all his work connections were made at the bar. Sometimes, if lucky, he'd even meet someone special. Even on less lucky nights, there's always something unexpected to find. Adam also wanted to see if he could find any leads on the masked man, so he followed along. They had to take the subway to get to the bar, and the subway seemed eerily familiar, like where Joker began his transformation. Their minds were on Joker, but their eyes were on an old lady muttering to herself. The low power and dim lights made the atmosphere truly eerie. Once they arrived at the bar, it was a whole different vibe, just happiness. No worries, just men, no women. Even a prominent figure was there, preaching that only they could understand the passion. The crowd was thrilled. History has seen speakers who influenced the world. Meanwhile, Patrick's wife secretly went to see Gino. She had read his articles and admired his talent but couldn't appreciate him as a person. Considering he had taken her husband, she gave all of Patrick's belongings to Gino, hoping they could go their separate ways and live their own lives. She seemed rational. Hard to imagine she didn't have a story of her own. Gino, feeling down, took the man to the bar to show him their world. In reality, the man was quite shy. He was all about love and didn't like this chaotic scene at all. But this place is extraordinary. If you stay here for just a moment, someone will naturally come up to chat with you, and they're very direct. A man just sat down, and before his seat was even warm, someone came over to talk to him. After he turned him down, the man went to chat with someone else. That guy found someone willing to talk, but suddenly, he picked up a skewer and jabbed it into the other person's neck. After stabbing, he left. It was terrifying, and everyone there was freaked out. Many people immediately left, but even the streets weren't safe, because the masked man appeared and even called the female doctor to come out. Worried it was one of her patients doing something foolish, she actually came out. When she saw the masked man, she realized the danger and started to run, but when she looked back, he was gone, only to see another patient. This patient talked about an infectious disease, a terrifying virus created by the US against the Soviet Union, still lingering today. To reach their wartime goals, they actually used a virus as a weapon. This handsome guy was running around in his underwear, not because he was crazy but because he narrowly escaped. He caught Sam's attention, got invited in, and was even confined. The house was luxurious, Sam's private place. For sure, Caleb walked around a few times before he even found the door, but the masked man was waiting right there by the door, standing like a statue in a gallery. Caleb found the elevator and left, but the masked man stayed completely still. Caleb rushed to the police station to report it. Finally, he could put on clothes, and he looked even cooler dressed. He reported everything clearly to the police but requested they keep him anonymous and not implicate Sam since he'd just escaped and didn't want more trouble. The police, understanding the whole story, went straight to Sam's mansion. Sam's life was one any man would envy, throwing parties every day with seemingly no worries, as if he controlled everything. All his parties were exclusively male, all within his domain. The police found him and took him aside for a discreet conversation, but he was shockingly arrogant. Not only did he have wealth on his side, but his logic was sharp. Patrick couldn't argue with him and went home to vent to his partner. Thinking it over, the police knew they had to check out this bar that everyone was so drawn to. Patrick put on a cool leather jacket and waited by the public phone outside the bar. He was waiting for the phone to ring since the suspect seemed to lure people away with calls, people who usually ended up missing. Instead of the call, he got hit on by a passerby, whom he promptly sent away. Soon enough, the phone did ring, but it didn't seem like the killer. Just one call after another until his hand was tired from answering. Just as Patrick was about to give up, the phone rang again, and after hours of waiting, he figured one more couldn't hurt. To his surprise, it was the killer, inviting Patrick to meet at a secret location. This was a place most wouldn't know about, where those who enter rarely want to leave. It was just that exciting. As soon as Patrick entered, he caught the attention of a man in the corner. This muscular guy saw Patrick following him. Patrick came to catch a criminal but pinned the guy against the wall. The guy was even more thrilled, thinking Patrick knew exactly how to have a good time. Maybe it was the atmosphere or the guy's allure, but Patrick suddenly felt like he belonged. He seemed to have found his joy in this place. Adam had just stepped into a diner when Whitley locked it from the inside. He wasn't joking, he really planned to take them out, setting the entire place on fire. Luckily, the woman noticed early, but it was still too late. They realized Whitley was the masked man, seeing the killer in front of them, watching him walk away. Knowing he was about to take them out, it was terrifying. Gino and Patrick made it to the hospital, and Gino's instincts told him the masked man was there. They started walking and searching, hoping to find Whitley. If they could catch him, this city might be at peace for the next 30 years. Whitley was really there, and he faintly sensed a force searching for him. He unplugged the tubes and started running, quietly stepping out of the hospital. But Patrick was waiting right at the entrance. Whitley naturally turned around and saw Gino. He silently cursed, thinking he was out of luck, and pushed Gino aside to run. Gino chased after him, muttering under his breath, wondering how this guy could run so fast. Although Whitley's footsteps were silent, Gino still spotted him. Maybe it was experience that helped Gino track him all the way to the morgue. Gino was bold enough to start checking bodies, thinking Whitley might be hiding as one, but in a split second, Whitley was behind him, knocking Gino out with a single move. When he woke up, he was already pretending to be a corpse. Without rescue, he'd really become one. Waking up filled with fear, Gino used all his strength to scream for help. But a morgue isn't exactly a crowded place. Still, yelling was his only chance. There was no other way. Oddly enough, the one more panicked wasn't him. He was too weak for that. It was his boyfriend. Patrick searched the hospital but found neither Whitley nor Gino. He could only rely on intuition. Maybe that's love. He finally found Gino, but Gino was already silent, half frozen. Driven by love and instinct, Patrick managed to pull him from the right drawer. But back home, for some reason, Gino's body was covered in red spots, itching like crazy. Gino scratched at them daily. Strangely, he never suspected the morgue was to blame. Instead, he figured Patrick must have brought it back from somewhere. And, in a way, his logic wasn't wrong. With bodies piling up recently, Patrick was fed up with seeing corpses. But today, another corpse appeared in a bed, a man he'd seen before. They were both part of the same community. Returning to the station, his boss launched into a lecture, and Patrick finally snapped, admitting he was into men. He mustered the courage to say it. And just then, the entire building lost power. The boss told him to get out, and Patrick literally rolled out of there. But soon after, he got a terrifying call revealing his deepest secrets. Before he could respond, the caller hung up. He asked a colleague to trace the call and quietly went to the location. To his shock, the masked man showed up, always appearing out of nowhere. He fired, but the man vanished just like that, adding to the suspense. Before he even got home, his ex-wife showed up at Gino's, calling Patrick a freak with disturbing secrets. Completely abnormal. Gino felt she was trying to provoke their relationship, but he still took it to heart. When Patrick got home, Gino started questioning him, and Patrick admitted he'd been with many men beyond Gino. He didn't know who they were, didn't know what they looked like, just a night of pleasure before returning to work the next day. He spoke with honesty and transparency, claiming that no matter how many he'd been with, his heart was only for Gino. He wanted Gino to understand the difference between sex and love, hoping he'd see it too. In other words, if Gino could separate love from physical encounters, Patrick wasn't at fault. If not, they'd have to break up. Gino's heart couldn't take it, and he fainted in the hospital. The first face he saw when he woke up was Patrick's. He fainted again, and after barely waking, fainted once more. After several rounds, he finally calmed down to face it. This guy was one of Sam's men, a model in appearance, but really, he worked in photography. He doesn't like being at Sam's beck and call, nor does he like Sam's controlling the world vibe. Like a girlfriend throwing a fit, he stormed off, leaving Sam shouting in frustration. Theo, feeling down, went to find Adam. It turns out he was shifting his affections. He told Adam about his recent blow-up with Sam, and surprisingly, Adam accepted him and invited him upstairs for tea. Going upstairs wasn't really just for tea. They ended up comparing abs and finding their own kind of happiness. Adam, knowing everyone was exhausted, decided to go downstairs to buy some chicken soup for strength. Unexpectedly, Sam followed him and invited him to get in his car, and he actually did. Sam bluntly told him to stay away from Theo. Adam ignored him and walked off. Adam knew Sam was running some underground venues where several murders had happened, so he went there to tell his friends to stop hanging around that place. The number of friends was dwindling daily. At this rate, they'd be wiped out. Two friends took his words seriously and curiously looked for the cause. In the friends' forest, they found Whitley disposing of a head. They followed him quietly as Whitley went home as if nothing had happened. Thinking they were 2 against 1, they figured they could overpower him. They followed him into his building, but Whitley held the elevator door, waiting for them with a chilling smile that made their skin crawl. Have you ever tried tarot? This woman saw a tarot shop on the roadside and stopped. As if magnetized, she walked in step by step, almost involuntarily. It turned out she was drawn by a job posting at the door. She was looking for work. Kathy, the owner, had quite a reputation. She also ran another place that catered to men. She used to sing every day, but now she was training a new singer to take her spot. The woman quickly got the job because the employer told her that if she could handle the loneliness, she'd make a lot of money. During this, Fran instantly called her sister to share the news of the interview. Her sister had a great face and figure, though she had a bump on her back. Fran's first client was Adam and Hannah, whom she already knew. Surprised to see Fran working as a fortune teller, they were about to leave, but Fran's remark made them sit down, and Hannah drew 3 cards, reading from a book. Fran offered to tell Hannah anything for just $10. Adam tried to pull Hannah to leave, but Hannah insisted, and Adam reluctantly paid. As Adam was about to draw, Fran murmured something about his friend, wondering if he was missing or dead. Fran turned the first card. It was death. The second, death. The third, death again. Angry, Adam accused her of scaring him with death cards. He didn't understand it. He swept his hand, scattering the cards. All of them were death. Adam dragged Hannah out, furious that Fran would joke about life when Hannah was pregnant. Theo invited Adam shopping and was curious about the tarot shop. Adam insisted he'd never go back. Theo, intrigued, pulled him in again. Maybe that's love. Theo smoothed things over with Fran, who, running a business, wasn't taking it personally. Every customer is a god. After all, Adam cut the cards, and Fran drew judgment, then the devil, then death. The whole room began shaking, sending chills down their spines. Fran, lost in thought, said the next one to die was Adam. Just then, everything returned to normal, and Adam ran out in a panic. Fran tried to explain that it was the subway passing, but Adam was already gone. Adam went to Gino, who, with his practical nature, only believed in science. Yet, after hearing Adam's vivid description, Gino became intrigued by the tarot cards. Curiosity pulls you in, and for Gino, curiosity was instinctive. He visited the place and found Kathy, whom he knew from the bathhouse. Gino didn't hold back, mocking her for the tarot card tricks. Who was she trying to scare? Kathy, offended, asked Fran to leave so she could handle Gino herself. Reluctantly, Gino sat down, turning over the cards one by one. Death, the devil. None of it fazed him. Suddenly, the lights blew out, leaving the room in darkness as Kathy began muttering, oblivious to the shattered bulb. Smoke appeared behind her, and someone with wings emerged. But Gino, well-read, used knowledge to suppress his fear. Seeing her almost as if she were a demon, he kept his composure, declaring it was just a hallucination, and left to seek comfort at home. Unexpectedly, he ended up comforting the police officer instead. The officer's ex-wife had been attacked in her own home while bathing. He arrived to find her body and was heartbroken, unable to accept reality. Lost in thought, he felt unbearable pain, and Gino silently embraced him. In that moment, he noticed strange marks on the officer's body. You know what they say about overconfidence? These 2 guys coincidentally encountered Whitley and decided to follow him. Confident that they were in a group, they figured they had the upper hand. But when they reached his apartment, Whitley was waiting, holding the elevator door. He chatted politely, but the next moment, they were strapped to a table. Whitley, wearing gloves, pushed a cart like he was about to perform surgery. He rarely spoke, usually masked, yet now he wouldn't stop talking. Looking at his future specimens, he chatted non-stop, revealing his belief that he was doing something great for humanity. Maybe no one understood him, so he'd kept it all, and now, he was thrilled to share it all. A corpse hung above, a trophy he viewed with pride. The men were terrified, faces pale. Whitley continued his monologue and pulled out a scalpel, preparing to dissect. If they truly listened, would they live? Probably not. Do you think people should keep secrets? Or is it better not to? Patrick told his old friend he'd be going to Fire Island on business since some kids found a body there. Gino's curiosity was piqued, his instincts drew him to mysteries. He wanted to go with him, but Patrick refused. Gino grew frustrated and asked if Patrick would be staying overnight. Patrick said he wasn't sure, but, in truth, he was definitely staying overnight. Keeping a secret Gino suspected was shady. Gino, sounding doubtful, asked if Patrick would cheat on him. Patrick dismissed it lightly and left. Gino followed discreetly, and sure enough, there was something going on. Sam was waiting in his convertible, obviously cheating. Gino went home to quickly pack. He was headed to Fire Island to get to the bottom of things, but when he arrived, someone was sitting in his home, politely greeting him. The worst part was he was holding a gun at Gino, but Gino, being a seasoned veteran, stayed calm. Having served in the military and seen combat, Gino was unruffled in front of a gun, and his silver tongue remained as sharp as ever. Incredibly, he managed to convince the gunman to come with him to Fire Island to find Patrick, a skill not many have. Patrick and Sam arrived at a small beach cabin. Sam was nostalgic. The design of the cabin was extraordinary. With such a nice setup, they weren't planning to sleep. They got straight to work. Since the body by the shore seemed tied to their fate, they began digging, piece by piece, because the body was in fragments. They tried to make sense of it, but soon Gino and his companion arrived. While Patrick talked about the body, Gino was more focused on the cheating. It all started back in 1979, when Sam, with his impulsive nature, bought a beach cabin just for drinks, fun, and games. There were no unattractive people and no women, just men. They had their own world, while others believed in love and sex. Here it was all about liberation without commitment. Patrick, shocked yet thrilled, witnessed this environment for the first time. At his core, he was part of this world. He'd just recently married, pretending it was a work trip when he was really coming to Fire Island for fun. He'd had his share of solo fun, but group activities took it to a new level. Sam, playing the host, led the three of them down to the basement. In the basement was an eye-catching set of restraints. Some found it baffling, but Sam said whoever volunteered could go first. Stuart, trying to be a hero, shouted, "I'll do it!" Sam put a black hood over Stuart's head and secured him in the restraints. With his head and hands locked, there was no way to back out. Not satisfied, Sam gave him a pill for added thrill. At first, the three enjoyed themselves, but things got intense, especially for Patrick. Seeing the situation escalate, Sam released Stuart, only to find he died. Now they had a big problem. Someone had died. Patrick panicked, but Sam told him to stay calm. He'd call a friend. This friend, also from their circle, was known as the cleaner. The man was all business, handling things with a cool head, and Sam's habit was to pay for results. The deal was struck quickly, but unexpectedly. The cleaner outsourced the task to Whitley, the masked man. Whitley, skilled with a scalpel, was an expert in dismemberment. When he hesitated, Henry slapped him and threatened to tell his mother about his orientation if he failed. Reluctantly, Whitley put a black hood over the corpse's face, offering it some final dignity. But the more he worked, the more he admired the body. It was perfect in proportion and bone structure. By the time he was done, Whitley was infatuated with his work. Sam and Patrick came to the beach to investigate the remains since traces had been found there. If the body hadn't been dismembered, cleanup would have been simple. Now, pieces were everywhere, meaning evidence was all over. After hearing this, Gino figured that since Henry knew Whitley and the masked man had been active recently, he could use Henry to find Whitley. Gino arranged a meeting with Whitley, who initially refused due to his big plans with dismemberment. But Henry, having some authority over Whitley, convinced him to meet at a bar while Gino waited in the car. Proudly, Henry said it would take no effort to handle Whitley. Whitley went to the bathroom, and Henry, gun in hand, planned to take him down. But Whitley, almost as if he could teleport, appeared behind him and injected him with something. Henry passed out, and Whitley loaded him into a car to take him back to the lab. Henry was now a test subject. Luckily, Gino, waiting outside, saw this and realized Henry had failed. He followed quietly, tracking Whitley's lab location, then immediately called Patrick. Having Patrick gave him a sense of security, but even Patrick wasn't invincible. Once there, Gino, undaunted, walked step by step into the basement. The basement was vast, with a strange odor. When they found Henry alive, they felt relieved. But suddenly, a body hung down from above, shocking Gino and Patrick. They'd seen a lot, but this scene left them speechless. Whitley used their shock to knock them both out, capturing them. Looking at the corpse, Whitley smiled as if admiring a piece of art, proud of his work. When Patrick woke up, he found himself chained to an iron bed. He'd spent his life locking others up. Now, he was the one restrained. Whitley, seeing him awake, approached with an apology. Without explaining, he hit Patrick on the head repeatedly, not to kill but to daze. He confessed he'd admired Patrick for years, a hint of childlike innocence still in Whitley's twisted heart. Do you know how ruthless you have to be a leader? Henry was captured and destined for experimentation, but when he woke up, he laughed. This maniac thought of them as cattle, not even human. Henry, with his experience, wasn't about to be restrained by a mere handcuff. His other hand wasn't as lucky. After trying various tools, he ended up sawing off his own hand to escape. That's true grit, the kind you need to be a leader. Meanwhile, Whitley was busy dissecting, with Patrick restrained, watching organ after organ being pulled out. Each piece seemed like treasure to Whitley, who smiled in satisfaction with every extraction. When he was ready to start on Patrick, Patrick finally panicked. Thankfully, Henry had escaped and brought Gino back with weapons. Whitley still couldn't understand why they were stopping him. He believed he was doing something great for humanity. Was he brainwashed, or was he trying to brainwash others? Either way, he wasn't ordinary. He revealed that ever since Henry forced him to dismember bodies, he'd developed a taste for it, unable to stop. Before he could finish, Patrick shot him dead. They thought it was finally over, but Adam discovered that none of the body parts belonged to his friend. Adam suspected there was another masked killer and asked Gino to keep investigating. Gino refused. Nearly dying dealing with Whitley was enough, and he thought Adam was being paranoid. Adam arranged to go to Fire Island with Hannah, determined to investigate further, but the night before they left, Hannah called, saying she felt unwell and couldn't go. She'd noticed symptoms of a strange, new infectious disease spreading among people and animals. Unable to bring Hannah, Adam took his boyfriend instead. To him, it was all the same. Fire Island was the perfect romantic getaway for young people, including Gino, Patrick, and even Sam. Theo, who used to be with Sam, left him to be with Adam after an argument. Sam approached Theo to make peace, offering him a drink. After just one drink, Theo was led into the woods by Sam, a place notorious for people going in and not coming out.